David Coburn, UKIP MEP for Scotland. A bit of background first of all about yourself. Explain who you are for your electorate. Who have they got now as one of their 6 MEPs?
Well, they've got a Scotsman born and bred, Scots by birth, nature and inclination. I've been the air freight forwarding business, which is a pretty useful business around the world. I'm here in Brussels. They very kindly elected me to go here. I think a lot of people in Scotland are fed up with tired old parties. They're fed up with the Labour Party, treating them like electoral cattle. They're fed up with the Scottish Nationalists, a bunch of solicitors dressing up in tartan, watching too much Braveheart. I think they're also fed up with the Liberal Party, who seem to have bombed completely. So UKIP are fresh on the block. We appeal to all classes in society, all right across the Scottish spectrum. We've got a lot of support from former Labour Party supporters because they're fed up with Labour, and we're going to do much better in the future.
You say you're going to do a lot better, so what are you going to be doing in Brussels, in Strasbourg, over the next 5 years? How are you going to represent the electorate that have voted for you?
Well, my objective by coming here is to make myself redundant as soon as possible. And my objective is to get Scotland and England out of the European community. I think it's been a disaster for Scotland. It's been a disaster for Great Britain. I'm very much one of the big issues I'm going to be taking up and I'm going to be looking at here in Brussels is the fishing industry. That is, people talk about the oil, Mr. Salmons for banging on about that, but Ted Heath and Geoffrey Rippon gave away Scotland's fishing grounds to get into the European Union. If we get out of the European Union, we will get our 200-mile limit back, and that is a major business for Scotland, and I want to see that in Scottish hands. I don't want to see the Spanish taking advantage of it. I want those grounds to be Scottish grounds.
How often are you anticipating you're going to be out here once the Parliament gets going? Some UKIP MEPs attend very regularly, and some have said that they won't come apart from when they absolutely have to, which is really the voting sessions down in Strasbourg. What's your kind of take on your plans ahead?
Well, you can waste a lot of time here. There are a lot of things that are quite unnecessary, straightening bananas and cauliflowers and all sorts of other nonsense, and quite frankly are just a waste of time. It's all been pre-decided anyway, and there's absolutely no point in sitting through ludicrous things like that. I mean, much better off in Scotland, building a consensus to remove us from the European Union, also doing stuff for my constituents. But I will be here for the important issues, which is most assuredly anything that affects Scottish industry, Scottish private individuals, remembering that 70% of our laws are made here in Brussels. That's terrifying. And it's not by a democratic system as we have in Great Britain. I want to see power return to Westminster, and I want to see power return to Holyrood.
Are you going to be sitting on any committees out here, and if so, which ones are you hoping to go for?
Well, that's being discussed at the moment. Many things have been suggested by my leader. He's going to make that decision. I will hopefully be giving some input to the agriculture and the fisheries side of things, very important for Scotland, but also industry and just about everything else. I have a background in industry, so that's in business, so that might be of help. But I'll be doing whatever is most useful for the cause and for the country.
There seemed to be a bit of a shock reaction to your election. What do you make of that, and how are you going to prove your critics, I suppose, that you're worth the money, you're worth the job that you've now got?
Well, I think most of the shock is in Blair House. I think it's Mr. Salmon who's chewing the Axminster. He seems to have think that Scotland was going to be UKIP free. Well, he's absolutely wrong. He bet his horse racing shirt on it. He's bet everything on that, and I'm afraid he's absolutely wrong. Scots are as worried about the problems of immigration, which are caused by the European open door immigration policy. They're as worried about that as anybody else in the United Kingdom. Scots are no different from anybody else, and I proved that by getting elected. So, I let them criticise and carp as they might. Scottish people have made up their minds, and they want me there, and I'm going to do my best for Scotland.
Just very briefly, finally, your take on the referendum. Where do you stand on the referendum, and how are you going to be campaigning in the remaining 100 or so days we've got?
Well, the Better Together campaign, quite frankly, have dropped the baton. They're not going very well with it. I'm going to try and pick that up. They don't seem to want us in their Better Together campaign. They think they're better off without us. Well, we're probably better off without them. So we will do our best and attract as many people to our campaign as possible. We're willing to have all people who are interested. And I will be running a stronger, better, more coherent campaign than they've run heretofore. I mean, the most important thing is we've been in alliance with England for 300 years. It has helped both countries to bat well above their average. It's enabled us to bring liberal democracy to the world. We've been together through peace and war. We have a stable currency. Mr. Salmon wanders on about having the euro, the bobby, the Panamanian groat. Who knows what he's talking about? The man's got no understanding of economics or whatever. And quite frankly, the Scottish people deserve better than that. And what Scottish business is going to be doing while politicians are bumping their gums about the European Union if there was something as foolish as independence? I don't think that's in anyone's interest. Scottish business would decline. There'd be a removal of people to say York or to Newcastle, a lot of businesses going there. Mr. Salmon's already talking about seizing land and not allowing people to own more than a certain amount of land. What sort of message is that sending out to the world about Scotland being ready for business? It's catastrophic. No one's going to invest in Scotland where you're going to have land grabs like Robert Mugabe. I mean, he really is. At the beginning of the campaign for the European election, I said he was the Robert Mugabe of Scotland. And by the end of it, by threatening land grabs, he's proving himself to be the Robert Mugabe of Scotland.